Okay, so hello everyone. This is Extensions Developers Deep Dive session. Today we're going to be building an extension from scratch, learn how to set it up, integrate into Tableau dashboard, and how to build one ourselves. As you must have seen all throughout these 3 days, pretty cool extensions that does write backs and Sankey charts and all kinds of good stuff. And you must be wondering, well, some of them are paid, can't use it, but in this session, we'll show you how to use the Extensions API and build one yourself, so it's all free. So introductions, I'm Ankit. I joined Tableau last year as a software developer on the extensions team, and I attended the Tableau TC conference last year, this very session, standing somewhere in the corner because we were told like we have to give seats to the attendees. So this year I made sure I had the best seat in the session. And this right here is Flex the T-Rex, is the lead developer of Extensions API, is a real code ninja, whereas I'm just trying to be a ninja. Yeah.
My name is John Dance. I've raised 5 teenagers, so I lost all my hair and my coolness, so I don't have any cool pictures to show with you. But I'm on the Extensions team also, and great to be with you. Congratulations on being the last session of the day at the farthest end of the building, so thank you very much for being here. So, but this will be the best session you've attended. So, as Ankit said, we're going to do a deep dive. We'll show you the XML, the HTML, and the JavaScript to build an extension almost from scratch. So, yes, we did say JavaScript and code in the same sentence. So if this is raising a sense of panic within you, there are 2 exit doors, one to the left and one to the right behind you. But we would have told you that maybe you're not in the right session, but this is really the only session you can be in, so you're in the right session. And we also have other related sessions, but they're all past. So again, you're in the right session. But we hope that as we talk about how to build an extension, even if maybe you're not a developer yourself or don't even think about becoming a developer, you can think about, well, now that I see how to do it, maybe I can think about what extension can I build. So first of all, you might be, wait, are we ready?
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's go. First, you might be wondering, what is a dashboard extension? A dashboard extension is a web app or a web page embedded in Tableau, a Tableau dashboard that can interact with the dashboard. So let me show an example of that to kind of help you understand that statement. We're going to switch over to Tableau. We happen to work in sales in our favorite retail store, Superstore. And except we've got this great dashboard that I built. Okay, I guess I'm not a great dashboard builder, but anyway, it works. It shows the correlation between sales and different segments and categories. And but we've got a demo to do in half an hour. And our boss just came to us and said, I'd like to have a Sankey diagram in that dashboard. Now, you can build Sankey diagrams in Tableau, but it will take a little while. And now we have 29 minutes left. Luckily, you know extensions. So what you're going to do is you're going to come down here, grab the extension from your objects palette. We'll put it over here on the side. And you can choose an extension. You happen to know about some of them. One called Show Me More from InfoTopics. So a big shout out to InfoTopics for building this. We'll go ahead and open it now and allow it. Now what comes up here is, again, this is an HTML page, a web page. We'll press the button. And what it does is it knows about the worksheets in your dashboard. Okay? So if you notice over here, category and segment per state, it lists both of those worksheets. We'll pick category and segment, and we'll pick Sankey diagram. Now it also knows about the fields from your data source that are in play. So there's category, segment, and sales. So we'll go ahead and pick category, we'll pick segment, and then for our measure, we'll pick sales. Press OK, and there's our Sankey diagram in Tableau. And it's fully interactive, but not only did it understand and communicate from the information from the worksheets, but it also can be driven from the worksheets. So for example, let's say we make a selection over here, then it changes because it, again, communicates back and forth with the worksheet. So you might be wondering, where did I find an extension like this?
Yeah. So we have this brand new extensions gallery. It is kind of like an app store or a Google Play Store where you download all the cool apps for your phone, except this is much more cooler because it's apps for analytics and pretty awesome stuff on here. So you can visit this extensiongallery.tableau.com. It lists all the extensions that have been submitted by our partners, developers around the world, and some of them are by Tableau itself. And we don't allow others to upload it directly, so it comes through Tableau, so it is vetted and it's somewhat tested. And then when you can look up them here, you can directly download them by clicking here, or you can deep dive inside. So in this case, let's go look at the one that John just showed us. It's called Show Me More by Infotopics. You can see the cool screenshots, description provided, what the extension does. You can go visit the developer website, their terms and conditions, and of course you need to have a Tableau portal login, which is just an account you can create for free on tableau.com. Use that to sign in, and then you can click download from here. And so let's look that up here. And I hope you guys remember that URL because we don't tell that to anyone. No, I'm kidding. You don't need to remember that URL. We have a shortcut right here in the Tableau. You just drag and drop an extension here, and it's gonna have a button here which is called Extensions Gallery that will take you to the gallery, and you can download extensions from there, or you can just click on My Extensions and it will load you extensions that you have already downloaded from other places. Okay, so now that we have seen extensions, what it does, what they are, shall we go ahead and build one ourselves, step by step?
Let's do it.
Okay, cool. So we have divided this into 6 segments. Each segment will walk you through a step on how to build one and use a particular API and use one of the functionality that it does. So the first one is setup and manifest. This step, we're going to talk about how to set it up, how to integrate in Tableau, how to load one, how to write the definition of an extension. The second one is an initialization API. This API is where you will write the first line of code, which is to initialize your extension to start running. The third one is the data API. This set of APIs will show you how to call your dashboard and get some data from it. And the fourth one is Events API, where you will use an event API to register your extension with the actions that happen inside Tableau so that you get notified. In that case, when John did some mark selection, you saw how it sent back an event to extension and extension reacted. The fifth one is Settings API. This set of APIs will let you save some information about the extension directly into the workbook. So when you give your workbook to some other users or you publish to the Tableau server, it remembers those settings. And the last one is the interactive API. This is where an extension tells Tableau on doing something like change marks or clear filters or change parameters and things like that. So it is an opposite of data API. Data API is where we get information from Tableau, and interactive API is where extension tells Tableau what to do. Yeah. So let's go ahead and look at setup and manifest. So the first thing you need is a manifest file. An extension is driven by a manifest file, and when we download an extension from the gallery or we write one ourselves, all it is an XML file, and it's stored with a file extension .trx because Flex, being the lead developer, he didn't want to pass on that opportunity. So now let's look at this XML and see what's in here, what's important, things like that. So the most important tag here is dashboard extension ID. You need to give a unique ID that identifies your extension among all the extensions that people will make. And the best practice is to give it in the reverse order of your company domain, so it's unique to you. So in this case, com.tableau.extensions.name, what is the name of your extension? The other attribute in this tag is extension version, which will let you version your extension. So in case you are adding more and more features later on, you can increment the versions here. And the second tag is your author tag, where you will provide information about yourself, who is the developer, the email, their website, and organization. So your users can know who made this extension. It is kind of like a bragging rights. And the last one is URL. This is where you will give the URL that the extension is going to load. This is where you will be serving the extension from, and where the extension will run as a web application. So you will need a web server to run this extension on that URL.
Wait a second, what if I don't have a web server?
Well, you can always use localhost for that.
Oh,
yeah.
All right. So you mean if I come over here, I have Visual Studio Code. So if I have Python, I could basically start up a simple server on my own machine. There, if I can copy and paste. Let me try that again. It's important to have our server running. There we go. Yeah. So I started, okay, so I can do that?
Yeah.
Okay.
But how did you figure that out?
I read the documentation.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So we have all this documentation available on tableau.github.io. If you go to there, go to the Extensions API. It has a getting started guide, which will talk about every step, and it will show you how to start a simple Python server, how to write the first XML. It has a bunch of samples which you can just download and use it, and then build on top of it, so you're not doing everything from scratch, things like that. So now let's go ahead and do the T-Rex file in real, right? Well, let's go ahead and play that out, how it works. So this is a T-Rex file that I have pre-written. As you can see, it's just a simple XML file. Here I have given the ID for my extension. I have given the version, which is 0.1.0. I have given the author information. Project Freelad is a name given by Flex. We don't know why. And the URL is localhost 8765. So as you can see here, this is the port where John just started a Python server. So that Python server is serving files from the folder start and tutorial.html file. Now, if you look at the HTML file that he's serving, it is nothing in there. You can ignore the CSS and the JavaScript. That's just to make it look pretty. But if you skip ahead to body, all we have there is hello from extensions. It's just a simple string that we want to show in that zone. So we can go ahead and test that out. We're going to go to Tableau. We're going to close this dashboard. So we're going to go ahead and load an extension. Now, remember, we're not going to gallery, but we're going to point it to an extension, that XML file that we just wrote. So we're going to go here. We're going to point it to the T-Rex file and open it. And we're going to allow it. And there, it is serving the HTML file that we just wrote through the Python server that John just started. Yeah.
All right, but so to tell you the truth, we've just loaded a web page locally, but we could have done that with a web zone, right? But this one has untapped power, all right? But so we have to get it connected with Tableau, and we're going to do that basically by initializing it. Because it has the manifest file, then Tableau knows that, hey, we can communicate with that web page, and once it initializes, then Tableau can start giving it information. So we wanted to look over the API to initialize and talk about it for a minute. So basically, you're going to call the function initialize async. So what's this Tableau.extensions? So we use namespaces. So all of our APIs are in a namespace. Tableau is the top namespace, and then extensions is one of the child namespaces. Initialize async. Why do we call it async? It's because whenever you see that part of a function name, you know that it is an asynchronous call. It doesn't return immediately. It returns a promise, okay? And the promise then is called with the .then. And the promise is and what you give to a promise in the .then function is two callback functions. One, if the promise is fulfilled, and a second, if the promise is rejected. So let's look at this just a little more. Let's say, well, actually, Kurt, would you come? Kurt, yes. Will you come up? Kurt asked me for a T-shirt a little earlier. Kurt, I'm sorry. Thank you. Nick. All right, sorry. Let's start over. Nick, would you come up?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. All right. So now I have to apologize. Nick is hiring, by the way, if he's interested in. Okay, that's enough now. All right. So Nick asked me for a T-shirt. I gave him a promise of a T-shirt. Okay. Now now he decides how he's going to react to that promise. As it's fulfilled, he's going to be happy. So unit test, I am happy. Okay. Unit test, I am sad. Okay. It seems to work. All right. So now when I return the promise, Nick didn't just sit and wait. He went on with other activities, right? Because it's asynchronous. So now I'm going to fulfill the promise, and there's a T-shirt. I am happy is called. All right, there you go. Thank you. All right. All right. Thank you. Okay, so let's do this in code. So we're going to take and we're going to just reuse what Ankit built for us, and just build on that. So what we're first going to do is go ahead and load the extension library, because we need that in our available to us. Don't worry about the formatting. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're just going to add a simple button to our web page, and we'll just go ahead and add that under our title. But then we're going to add something to a JavaScript file. We'll go ahead and save that. And I'll just go ahead and copy this down here. Our tutorial.js is completely empty, so we're going to go ahead and add it. So what this does is, this is a jQuery function, right, that basically grabs the initialize button by ID and specifies a callback for when that button is clicked. So when it's clicked, again, we're going to do Tableau, namespace, extensions, namespace, initialize async. That's a clue. This is going to return a promise. So we're going to call then on the promise. And the first parameter, we don't specify a rejected function here. The first parameter is the fulfilled function. What's going to get called when that promise is fulfilled? And so what we're going to do is we're going to grab the dashboard content and basically grab the dashboard name from that content. And we're going to specify the title that Ankit made for us and set the text to that title. Okay, is everyone with me? All right, so we'll go ahead and save that. Come over here to Tableau. Just like you can reload on the web, we have a reload button here with our extension. Okay, so now we have our initialize button. We click that. Ooh, we have our dashboard name, Victory Dance. All right, that's good. All right, we're done?
Nah.
All right.
Nah, we still have a lot more to do. Okay, so John just went ahead and initialized the extension. We have extension set up and running inside the dashboard. Now let's go ahead and start using it and doing something much more, right? Because this is not that fun. If you spend 2 weeks setting this up and taking it to your boss and it's like, well, no, right? You want something to be related to the Tableau. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and use data API now. So let's go to code. So first of all, I'm gonna go ahead and copy this HTML body to this body. It's just making it look a little pretty, nothing related to extensions in there.
You can have two bodies there.
Yeah, okay. Now we'll do some JavaScript stuff to call the APIs to actually use data APIs rather than just saying hello. So I'm going to first go ahead and copy this code to the JavaScript, and I'm going to delete John's code because
it was so good too.
Nah, That's what I always do. When he submits code review, I just delete it and write new code.
That wasn't in the script.
So if you see here, what we did here is now instead of just saying hello from dashboard, we are calling a function called show choose sheet dialog. We don't want just hello, we want to do something. So we're going to make a function call. Now, we still need to go ahead and write the code for that function. So I'm going to first go ahead and copy that. OK. Now let's see what I want to do. So this function will be called when initialize happens, right? And then when the initialize happens, this function gets called. And see what I'm doing in here. I'm going to call tableau.extensions.dashboard. I'm going to get the name of the dashboard.
I already did that part.
Yeah. But I'm doing much more with that. So with dashboard, then I'm going to go ahead and do dashboard.worksheets. This is going to give me an array of all the worksheets on this dashboard. Worksheet, which is visualization. So it's going to give me an array of all the business objects into this variable. Now I'm going to go ahead and go over all of them and acquire its name. So I'm going to form another array called worksheet names, and all it has is names of all the business, right? Then I'm going to go ahead and call this UI helpers library, which we have written. It's just simple UI, making UI pretty library. And what it's going to do is it paints a really nice table of all the business names that I pass to it, right? So I'm going to pass to it, this is the function it has. I'm going to pass to it the name of the dashboard. I'm going to pass to it the array of all the viz names. And the third argument is it takes a function that when I click on that table, what should it do? So I wrote a function where I say, I want to show a pop-up saying getting data for that viz name. So that's what a simple thing it will do. We'll save it. We'll go to dashboard. We're going to reload it. And there. So you can see this really nice, pretty UI that's done by that UI helpers library. So that is up to you. You can use any UI assisting JavaScript libraries and have any kind of UIs that you want. It got names of all the 4 vizes through that worksheets object, and I gave it to it, and it printed this really nice pop-up with all the names. Now remember when I gave it when I select something, what to do, I gave that code to it, and now when I make a selection, it shows that pop-up, and the pop-up has the name of what I selected. Okay, so now let's go ahead and do something more. Okay, how about we don't want to just give pop-ups showing what is the viz you selected. I mean, no big deal, the name's right there. You don't need to tell me what I selected, right? How about we do something more? How about we try to get something out of the viz name that you select, right? So we're going to go ahead and paste this code. Let's get rid of that pop-up. Okay, so here, what do we do here? What are we doing here? So what we are doing here is we are again calling that UI helpers library to give me what I selected. Just give me the name, and then tell the UI helpers library to give me the worksheet object, which I gave it to it here, right? It has all the worksheet objects. I want the worksheet object that Tableau APIs gave you. Give me the worksheet object and pass it to this function called load selected marks. Now we can write the code for that function. I can explain that in a bit. Let me paste it. Okay. So what does that function do? I pass in a worksheet object. This worksheet object is the extensions API object. It has a function called getSelectedMarksAsync. When you call that, it returns a promise, and it returns you, when the promise is fulfilled, it returns you an array of marks object. Marks object has all the data filled out. Based on all the marks that you have selected on the viz, it will give you one mark object for each mark. And it has the data in it. It has all the other information related to marks, which you can look up in our API, the color, the size, parameter, things like that. So all I want to do is get all the marks. Then I'm going to call my UI helpers library, which is going to just create a really nice table for me. And I'm going to pass that in there. And all it's going to do is going to make a really nice data table of all the data that came out of the selected marks. I'm going to save this. We're going to go here and reload. It's going to make us select a sheet. I select it, and
nice.
there. Of all these marks that were selected, it returned the data, and this UI helpers library got all this data in the marks object, and it created a nice table out of it.
All right, yeah, so that table is exactly the marks that are selected up here. But unfortunately, we can't respond to changes in that selection. So what we need to do for that is to add an event helper, event listener. So the event listeners all have the same structure and pattern. You add an event listener, you provide a type of event you're interested in, and then you provide a callback function that will be called when that event is fired. So things you can listen to are filter changed or mark selection, parameter changed, settings changed, and we'll talk about settings in a minute. So let's see this in action. Okay. So again, very simple. We're going to register with the worksheet that we've previously selected. We'll register an event listener. We'll register for any time the mark selection is changed. And all we want to do is we just want to do the work we did before, right? We'll just change that table, okay? So pretty simple. So we're going to put that down. We can register this anytime. Let's go ahead and register it when we first load the marks. Okay. Now come over here, reload again. Choose our sheet. I'm getting tired of choosing that sheet.
Yeah, we'll fix that.
Okay. So, so those are our selected marks. Let's see if it works. Ooh. All right. So now it's very interactive. As we change the selection in our worksheet, it changes the table displayed in the extension. So that's listening to the events. Okay.
So yeah, just like John complained, it's pretty annoying to have to do sheet selection every time, right? And think about the use case when you make this really nice dashboard and put an extension on it, and then you give your dashboard to your manager, or you publish it to server for other users to use, and then what if they end up choosing the wrong sheet and it doesn't work with that, and it's not the intended behavior that you wanted to provide. You want them to pick a sheet that you want it to be tied to. In what happens in the back is you want to save it, right? You want to save which sheet is supposed to be selected, my extension is supposed to work against. So for that, we have a settings API. What that will let you do is you can have extension write some information that you want into the TWIBAX itself, which the extension can read back again. We will let you, it writes information. If you looked at the TWIBAX, it's a giant XML, and extension can store information in it. So when you give a workbook to anybody and it's opened in another Tableau, when your extension loads there, it can read stuff from the workbook so it knows what it needs to do. So let's go ahead and see that in the code. Okay, suppose I'm going to go ahead and paste this code where it needs to be. Okay. So what does this do? If you see here, it's the namespace, extensions, and then the settings namespace, and I'm calling a function called set. What it takes is two values, key and a pair value, key value pair, right? So the key is a sheet, which is the name of the key I want to save it as, and the value is the name of the worksheet, which was just selected. So I want to save this thing like into the TWIBAX. And then I'm going to call, you can have as many sets as you want, save as much information as you want. We recommend that don't save a huge amount of information, because that's just going to make your TWIBAX really big, right? So very important settings only. And then when you call save async, it's going to write that to the TWIBAX file. So you need to call save async. Do not forget calling that. Just calling sets is not going to persist it to the TWIBAX.
Now it's an async call, so it returns a promise.
Yes, but in this case, we do not want to do anything with that promise, right? So save asyncs is going to tell the API to go ahead and do its job, and then when it's finished it, return back to me, and then I'll do something. But in our case, I don't want to do anything, so you just go ahead and do your job kind of scenario. Yeah.
You might want to add air checking in your aces.
Yeah, but I'm just so good, so I don't do that. And I'm kidding. But yes, if you a practice is to always have then and then have a failure function provided. So in case something goes wrong, you can show a nice message rather than some underlying error messages popping up if the end user doesn't understand what it means, right? So we're gonna go ahead and now.
Oh, you didn't.
I didn't
load the settings.
Oh yes. Oh yeah. Good catch. So let me go ahead and copy this. So what we
you saved them there, but now we need to load them.
Yes. So let me explain that. Okay. So what we did is that when a sheet got selected, we saved it to the toolbox file, right? Now we also need to read it when the workbook is going to get loaded into a different Tableau, right? So we can put that in the initialize. So in the initialize, right, when this is what gets called the extension when it's getting loaded in a workbook. So over there now, we're going to do settings.get, the get function, and then pass the key. And it's going to give back the value, which is in our case the name of the viz. And if it comes back empty, meaning if it was loading for the first time ever, this workbook has never been saved, right? In that case, it's never been selected. So if it's empty, then we're going to go ahead and show them show choose sheet dialog, which is make a selection, show that nice UI, go ahead and make a selection. But if it has already been saved once, selected once, and saved once, then we're just going to skip forward to directly to on-sheet selected function, which is going to go ahead and then hook up the listener and going to start showing the selected marks data in that area, right? So let's go ahead and save that. Oh. Yeah, we can reload the extension. Now this is the first time when I make this is when it's going to use the set API to save it to the twib. Now if I select some marks, it shows that, it's all good. Now I'm going to save this workbook. I'm going to close it. Now if I open this workbook again, and you can see it remembers that this is the viz I'm tied to, and I'm supposed to start showing data from that viz.
So often you might have a configure menu, right? And you'd allow a user or the dashboard author to configure it, and then the users or viewers of that dashboard would not have to configure it in the future. All right, so up until now, we have had the extension listen to Tableau, basically the Tableau drive the extension. But what if you need some functionality that you want the extension to drive Tableau or to do some actions in Tableau? So there's various actions that you can perform. So here are some of them. You can select marks from your extension. You can change parameter values. You can apply filters. You saw in the devs on stage yesterday a show hide that you can't do not right now, but will be coming in 2019.1. But what we're going to do in our little demo is focus on applying a filter, okay? So this is a page from our documentation. We actually have our documentation writer in the session with us, so anyway, but no, he does a good job. So this is apply filter async. So let's look at this. So async, remember that's a key word. It returns a promise, right? It's an asynchronous function call. But we'll take a field name, the name of the field to filter on, okay? An array of values that will be part of our filter, and then an update type of what you want to do with that array of values. Do you want to extend the current filter? Do you want to replace the current filter? Do you want to add all these items to the filter? And then some other options. So let's go ahead and look at this in practice. Okay, first of all, I never told Ankit this, but populate data table takes another parameter. And that is a callback function that would be called when we click on the column. Let's go back over here real quick to Tableau. So if we click on one of the headers, then it can take a callback function. One thing we should notice, though, is that these, the values in these columns are not unique. For example, here's Europe twice, or Europe 3 times. Okay, so let's go back now to our code. Okay, so we can specify a callback function in populate data table. So we're just going to go ahead and add that to the call. And then let's copy the function down and look at that. Okay, so what does this do? So on column header clicked. It takes the field name and the column data from the table, just the UI table in our extension. Now remember, those were not unique values. So we're just going to do a little JavaScript to filter the array to an array of unique values. That's all that call does. So column data domain is now an array of unique values from that column. And then we'll call apply filter async. Once again, we don't have any error handling here, but that's for exercise for the user. All right, so we'll pass the field name, all right, our array of unique values, and in this case, we'll say let's replace the filter, okay? So we'll come back, we'll save that, come back to Tableau, and reload. Okay, so everything still works, but this time when we make a selection, if we click on the header, then it actually drives the filter. So we actually now have modified the filter in the dashboard from the extension. So we'll go to a pre-baked version. This is like one of those cooking shows where you put something in the oven, you talk about it for a minute, then you pop it out of the oven. Tastes great. We're going to close this guy and bring in a new extension. This is pretty much what we built together, but it has just a little UI, a little more UI. All right, so again, this one we have not loaded yet, so we select the sheet again. So this one actually has UI elements that we can use we'll go ahead and filter again. We can clear the filter. We can pick the sheet, kind of a little configure menu from our extension. So there is an extension that we all built together in about 40 minutes. So there you go. All right, now we did it without any bugs, which is surprising because Ankit was on the team. Sorry. So, but what if there's, that's not always the case. You might have a bug or two in your extension. So what do you do about that? If you're online or in Tableau server, you can definitely just use your browser debug solution. But if you're using desktop, what you need to do is you need to start desktop with an extra parameter that basically opens up a debugging port, okay? And up until 2019.1, you have to have a special version of Chromium. Long story there. But all these details are on the documentation website, so you can get to those. But in 2019.1, you can just open up Chrome. So hey, that's Rex, that's not Flex. What's he doing in here? Got to debug the slides, too. So so before you guys got here, we actually started Tableau with our extra parameter here, remote debugging port 8696. So let's go ahead and come over to the Finder, and I need my glasses, and open up Chromium. And in Chromium, what we're going to do is just, again, go to localhost 8696. This is not the port that we're hosting the extension on, right? This is the special debugging connection to Tableau. So once we do that, it lists the extension, or it would list multiple ones that are in my current dashboard, and now you have the full debugging experience that you have in a normal Chrome or Chromium. For example, you can set breakpoints. So we have one set in Show Choose Sheet dialog. So let's come back here and choose a sheet. So now you see it's paused in the debugger. I come over here to Chromium, and we're at that line. And this is very handy. So for example, you can see the worksheets. There's 4 worksheets. Well, what is available in each worksheet? So you can drill down, and it's great to kind of see what's available in the environment besides just reading the documentation. Okay.
Okay,
back to you.
so you all must be wondering that this is all great and all, but our IT is really strict and they never let us have fun or play with cool toys and all. So this is not going to work for me. Well, we have stuff for IT as well. We have added security measures in place to for them to control the settings at a site level as well as at the server level. We have added the site settings, which looks like this. So let's look at the settings. The first one here is the safe list. So what this setting lets you do is you can provide the URL of the extensions that your IT has validated and is allowed to use. You can add them here. And it has 2 other settings that they can configure for it, which is, do they want these extensions to have access to the data? Like in our case, the extension got all the data from the Wiz, right? Do you want to allow that kind of thing to an extension? The other setting is user prompting. Do you want to have extensions to display prompts when they are loaded every time? Or do you want to just disable them because you know these extensions made by a very reputed company, we don't want users bothered all the time with popping up, right? Other setting here is default behavior. So if you want, if you are a big company with lots of users trying lots of extensions and you don't want to wait till you get a permission from an IT to be added here, and then you just want to have users start using extensions, but you want them to still be allowed pop-ups and the full data block and things like that, then you can have a default setting for people to try extension, but then they will have a pop-up and they will have to make a choice whether they want to allow extensions or not and what that extension is going to do, right? So that the pop-ups look like this, where it will say what it's going to do. If it's going to take full data, if it's going to read your full data, it's going to say that it's going to read full data. Do you want to allow this extension to run? And things like that. And the user will make a choice what they want to do. And then these are the server level settings. Now these settings apply to the whole server and it controls every site. Those were the site level settings. So different sites within a company can have different safe listed extensions. But what server level settings are is like this setting right here is a kill switch. So if you take this off, then it will disable extensions all across Tableau server and all the sites under the Tableau server. So extensions will not run on any dashboards. And what that does is when you load a dashboard with an extension, it's just going to show an empty zone there, and we will not load the extension. So it is not getting executed. It will not have any permissions to even load or touch or see your data. The second setting here is a block list. What does this do is when you register a URL here, it's going to go ahead and make that extension disabled all across your server. So it's kind of like a kill switch, but just for those particular ones. They will be rendered as empty. They will not be executed or even loaded, and they will not be allowed to do anything to your dashboards. Yeah.
All right. So we're just getting started on the extension journey, and we hope you join with us. Some of the things we're looking for in the future is you saw dashboard zone transparency yesterday in Devs on Stage. We'd like to add some extension transparency also. Also, you saw a little demo of show and hide, and we'd like to add that. Also, there's a little hole right now. If you export image on a dashboard, the extension zone is just empty, and we'd like to have some solutions around that. A little further beyond, we just would love to have extensions in various parts of the Tableau ecosystem. So maybe at the workbook level or at the tooltip level. But anyway, various ways that you can extend Tableau besides just dashboard extensions. So, yes, this has probably been the most mind-blowing session you've attended. So how do you learn more? Unfortunately, these sessions are already gone, but or done. but you can definitely get them when you get the content of all the sessions. But also, all the developer track sessions will be posted to this website. I'm going to put this up and save it up at the end so you can get all these. But then also, we started our new developer program. It's really awesome. You can have your own online site that has the latest bits, and you can play with stuff coming out in the future. And you'll be alerted of different things in REST APIs, in extensions, in JS APIs, and all the developer programs. And finally, we're on GitHub. There's a community there. You can post questions. That's where you can find our documentation. And we're there on GitHub. So with that, we wanted to send you out with a charge of what amazing extension will you write. And Flex thanks you, little nod there, and we thank you, and thanks very much. We'll have any questions if you have any.